The following chapter of Let's Get Deeper was released on the GR8 M8S Podcast on January 30th, 2019. Welcome back to the summer season of GR8 M8S Podcast. If this is the first time you're listening to us, we are just a bunch of young Australians talking about life and other stuff, pop culture and the internet. If we have questions from you guys, we'll answer them as well, or, just anything that comes up. If we have something to talk about, we'll definitely talk about it. In this summer season, and in particular this little mini-series that I've got going, this is going to be a bunch of little Q&A episodes with each one of us, as sort of a getting to know us a little bit better and, what each of us brings to this clusterfuck that is the podcast. I'm Josh, and with me on today's episode, I've got Nick.
Hello, everybody.
You're really trying to do that. You're really trying to do that hello Dr. Nick thing, right?
Not really. It's just like I've got my closer because I've stolen that from another podcast. But my opener, I just still haven't got me opener yet. I mean, you've technically stolen the Singcast opening of just different languages.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, fair enough, I guess.
I need to find another podcast with a good opener that I can steal. I mean, I seem to be adding a new podcast like every single week nowadays.
Oh God, I've got a pretty decent amount of podcasts now through Spotify, and I'm just like, I don't even have enough time to go through everything, even with I've put everything up to 1.2 times speed, and that's still not enough to sort of cover a lot of episodes that I want to listen to. And bloody hell, there's so much content. So what can you do?
I mean, even SciShow, like the Hank Green thing, they've just started a podcast called SciShow Tangents, which is pretty much just like a science fact episode, like a science fact podcast. It's 40 minutes, so it's really easy to listen to. But it's just science facts is perfectly my avenue. What have they done? They've done an episode on space. And it was just random facts that each of the people on the podcast have found about space, and one about what was it? Last week's insects, or was that space? I can't remember. But yeah, they're just just heaps of science facts, and okay,
and
just nerdy. I don't have too many nerdy podcasts, so it's good to just have that one.
True. Fair enough. I guess we'll get the ball rolling. And, Nick, if you could tell our lovely audience just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Where to start with me? I have been in and out of tertiary education for way too long now. Just, finished high school, did a bridging course to get into uni, went to uni, dropped out of uni, went to TAFE, had to take 6 months off TAFE, went back to TAFE, took a year off, and now finally, as of today, are back in TAFE doing a different course. Other than that, I'm the resident non-bioscience person. In
the complementary side to my bio.
Yeah. As in, the chemistry, got a bit of physics. Other than that, I mean, a little bit of bio. The bio I picked up in like year 10.
Oh yeah.
But and a bit of enviro stuff, which I suppose is bio.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
So yeah, STEM, and then as well as being, I think I can happily say I'm the resident comic book person.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I read vastly the most amount out of all of us. Yet, you know, the other people mention books, like people would have heard in the comics episode, me being like, yeah, I need to get around to reading that. My reading list both grows and just has more added to it than I buy books than I don't read them, and there's still just a vast list of like best comic books of all time that I'm still yet to read.
Oh dear.
Other than that, just a lot of pop culture, and a lot of just being sad and emotional.
Yeah, Nick, along with being the STEM boy, we do share like a lot of other stuff as well, and I guess that leads me to sort of the first like area is like, how did we sort of get to know each other a lot better? Because obviously for context, we were part of this little online community using Slack, which is in its like proper application is like a work-based IM sort of platform. But the podcast that we listened to called We Stay Late, they used Slack as like, you know, their own, you know, they repurposed it for the community, and that's sort of how we got on there, and that's sort of the genesis for this podcast. But yeah, Nick, how did we get to sort of know each other, and by extension, how did we get to where we are now, where you're part of Great Mates?
Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, like you said, all the OG mates had started, we're on Slack well before I was, between, I mean, I tried a couple times, but passwords and links were dead, and whatever, Luis has a life, so I never, like, but yeah, eventually, it was live and active, and I signed in after, I believe it was like October school holidays, so I was not doing much, and signed in, and everyone was happy to see another Australian.
Yeah, just, I guess, yeah, the Aussies are like the, like a little tiny ass group compared to, you know, a lot of the main demographic was the US and Europe, so we're, you know, sort of like this little cluster of people on that community.
From what I've heard, even like in London, all the Aussies just like flock together.
Of course.
So,
it makes sense.
So yeah, it was good. But, so yes, I joined Slack, and before that I had already been listening to Great Mates, and listening to We Stayed Late, of course. And, you know, it was kind of good to, I suppose there weren't really faces. I mean, like, there were faces on, like, Twitter accounts and that, so I still kind of had faces, but kind of, like, getting to know you all personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then, at the same time, during that time, my mum had just had surgery for cancer. Well, what could have been cancer and then turned out to be cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, when it turned out that it could have been cancer, that really hit hard. And I'd previously, like, my dad had cancer, I think it's like 6-7 years ago now, and that hit me hard then, so it was kind of just like a double shotgun stuff. And you were always, like, you were there and you were happy to just kind of help, which was nice. And yeah, it made me feel really welcome. And I mean, all of Slack were always very welcoming, but the Aussies were just overly welcoming. It was nice to know that the podcast wasn't a front.
Yeah. A front for what?
For passive aggressiveness. And you know, there's always like stories in Hollywood of like the two lead actors just completely hate each other and stuff, but no. And then I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, you were like, "Hey, do you like eventually want to join the pod?" And I was like, "Yes, please." So,
yeah, and I guess yeah.
I then joined like a couple of the summer reps, knowing like this could be a proper thing, and then it was like March, April this year. And,
yeah,
I mean, it was the first episode after Mate's Great.
Oh God!
Which I will like. For some background knowledge, like I was all for that. I think I was the person who like came up with the idea of just give the boy free rein.
Oh, I think you were, and
I feel like I was.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I came to be here.
Yeah, and I guess to sort of give my perspective on how I sort of, you know how Nick said, like, you know how you said, like, I was there and sort of that sort of thing. It was part of me was sort of recognize that you did need like someone to talk to. And
I mean, it wasn't like I needed someone. Like, I think at the same time, I already was seeing like a professional psychologist.
I think so. Yeah.
Because like I started like the year before. Oh, no, it would have been around the same time. It would have been like August. So like 2-3 months had been seeing a professional psychologist. So it wasn't like I needed, like, even though you do have a psych background, it wasn't like I needed a psych. It was just kind of like I needed.
It was just someone.
Someone to just be like, hey,
to bitch to and talk to about.
Yeah.
Without like the whole connotation of it being psych stuff.
Yeah, and there was also like with other friendships, it was kind of like a lot of my friendships at that time were around Quidditch, and like I could get into a whole nother discussion about what happened a couple months ago with I don't even know if I talked about it earlier, but just there ended up being a big cancer argument, and because of that, like I lost some friends from Quidditch, and I mean that sucked, but also at the same time, fuck those cunts.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, it was kind of like you don't want to bring down like friendships that are all about like happiness and that kind of thing. So it was good to just have someone. Plus, like at the time, if like nothing ever came from our friendship, like it didn't matter because it was just kind of like talking to you at that time didn't really mean anything, if you know. Yeah.
And as a premise for anyone that's listening, I like having been doing this like counseling degree for the past year. I know that it's very tempting for me to do that, but ethically I know that I can't therapize, basically the next closest group of friends, basically my kids. I've resigned myself to being the dad of this podcast and this group of people. So I actively choose not to therapize them. It's my position with that whole thing is I'm here for them if they need to talk, but I am not all about
it's more like advice. Like I think the only times I've like properly come to you was like for advice about like how do I handle this situation,
Yeah.
or just it's not. So what I know from like going to a psych, there's two parts. There's like counselling, and then there's like mediation, kind of like how to treat.
Yeah.
So for you, I more come to like how to treat than these are my problems kind of stuff, which, I mean, that's good and helps. And rarely has it ever been about me. It's usually been about other people.
No, it's always been a different situation. Yeah. So just to give a little clarity, just in case anyone who knew that I was doing counseling and a little
don't
bit
come
of
to
psych.
God with your problems.
I mean, don't come to me. Just boundaries, ethical boundaries. We'll just leave it at that. But yeah. How did we delve into ethics so quickly? But anyway, and then from there, I guess, I sort of figured, bring Nick into the fold of, getting to know the other mates through the, Facebook group chat that we have. And then I sort of, did bring up the idea of maybe, maybe it could be good if we get another person on. And I think that was before I figured out you had a very like STEM interest and
I mean, there's probably like, because I've always been very leading with that I'm STEM. So there may have been like a little bit, but not that
but not like, you had,
as like I said, I love stupid science facts, and I'm always like trying to read like, easy to digest papers and that type of stuff. Plus at the same time, I think like you were the first person I quotation marks met. And then it was like Ben and all that. So it was like I met everyone in a kind of, I mean, I'm pretty sure you just added everyone when you were like, oh, it's an Australian. Yeah. But I met everyone, and then, luckily, I kind of, me joining helped the podcast actually run this year.
It did.
Yeah, because people were real dead.
People had, like, outside of podcast stuff to deal with, and for like the first 4 weeks I wasn't on. So, of season 2, that is, because we pre-record a lot of summer, like we're doing now. So it's been great to have like the extra person to sort of help with doing every episode on a weekly basis. And if you need evidence about STEM, how much STEM we delve into, go listen to the Doctor Who podcasts, spoiler casts. We did a fair few.
Also
plus
the first STEM Boys podcast where we literally just be like, what's in science news this week?
Oh yeah, we did that too.
Just tried to figure out papers. We had no idea what they were about.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was fun. We should do that again.
Now just science news is depressing.
Yeah, but there's weird shit out there. I mean, like, there was an article that I read, like a case study from like New England Journal of Medicine does some great like articles and case studies and stuff. How someone coughed up like an entire bronchial tree.
Oh my god.
Like a casting of a bronchial tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll.
That's still gonna hurt.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They were in like ED for something else, but then they coughed up an entire like cast of a bronchial tree. So I was like, holy shit.
That's impressive.
That is impressive and very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. So long and the short of it, Nick is now here. So, we get to talk about all the other fun stuff, on the regular season. But for the purposes of today, there's a whole bunch of questions that I've sort of come up with and, sent them over to Nick. So we'll probably get through some of them.
Some, if not all. It depends how fast I can kind of go through, and if we don't tangent.
Yeah, that is a very difficult thing for us, because we sometimes tangent quite far. Not as far as Bin, and not as far as Brandon, but still tangents. So yeah, we'll probably delve into your passion for comics first. So, if you could recommend, like, 2 comic book series to someone who's just getting started, what would they be, and why did you choose them?
Okay, now, I have spoken about Jessica Cruz a lot, so you'd think I'd recommend Jessica Cruz and Green Lantern. However, I won't. Because to actually understand that, you need to start at, like, Jeff Johns' 2005 series, and then, like, read through that till 2011, and then New 52, and then his Justice League run, and all that. So you end up, like, 200, 300 issues, which is not that easy to get into.
Oh, yeah.
So instead, what I will recommend is for people who want to go for your main characters, Batman. Batman has... Now, I'm going to technically cheat here and recommend 3 different Batman runs.
Okay.
But they all tie into each other, and literally, like, the first one I'll recommend, which is Grant Morrison's run, which kind of, like, started... how's the best way to describe it? It kind of, like, started the modern era of Batman. So, if people kind of know comic books, you'll know the name Damian Wayne, who is Batman's son, like, true son. So, Grant Morrison introduced him, and it's just great story after great story. You start at, like, Batman and Son, which is where he finds his son, and then you go to Batman R.I.P., which is kind of all about what happens when there is no Bruce, and then... Spoilers, there is no Bruce, and you go to Return of Bruce Wayne, which is one of the best miniseries I've ever read. It's like, each issue's like a different era, so you get like Caveman, Batman, and each one's like Bruce jumping through, like timelines. So you get like Caveman Bruce, Pirate Bruce, what else is there? There's like there's like a film noir Bruce, and it's just really readable. And then after Grant Morrison kind of like shied away from stuff, this guy called Scott Snyder took the reins. And go to like any comic book shop and someone will recommend Scott Snyder's run, because there is nothing... Oh, actually, I was about to say there's nothing wrong with it, but there is. There are 2 maxi series in there called Batman Eternal and Batman Robin Eternal. Each was... Well, the first one was 52 weekly issues, and weekly comics suck. Any, like, comic book reader will tell you that. Weekly issues suck. So, second one was 26 issues, but still weekly, so still sucked. But, so yeah, you can start at Black Mirror, which is... It's like one of the darkest Batman books I've ever read, but it's good, and kind of... Like, you kind of need to know for it, and you kind of need to, like, know a backstory about, like, these are the characters. Like, in the book, Bruce isn't actually Batman, it's Dick Grayson. But, actually, is Bruce Batman in part of it? I think he might be for, like, a couple of them. But mostly it's Dick, so... Don't matter, but yeah, it's really good story, and introduces so many, like, old elements, new elements. And then he moves into Gates of Gotham, which is fine. It's like a time warpy book, like a flashback, flash forward book. But then you get to New 52, which is so brilliant. You start with like Court of Owls, which is all about like it's kind of like a like a fantasy mafia of Gotham, which is, I like it, but yeah. It's 52 plus issues of just like brilliance with Greg Capullo on art, and it's so beautiful. Even just thinking about it, I wish we have more. But luckily this year we had Dark Knight's Metal, which kind of like summed up just like 60, I don't know, even 70 years of Batman, just all wrapping it up into just nice packages. And then that was followed by Tom King's run, who's the current. Not many people like Tom King's run. It's been a bit hit and miss. But it's pretty good. There's still like another 40 issues to come out from his run, so that's good. So yeah, first recommendation would be any Batman from the last 10 years, maybe 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
What else can I think of? But yeah, like I said, that's 3 runs. That's a cheat. While I'm talking about 52, as a quick side note, Francis Maniples and Brian Busela, oh fuck, I can't say the guy's name. He's, whatever. New 52 Flash. It's the first couple issues, followed by the detective run. It's all like watercolor art, and they're both doing the art and the writing at the same time. They work as a team, but it's just beautiful watercolored art, and it's rare. Like, in a world of just like digitally drawn graphics and digitally colored graphics, which I got nothing wrong with that. I'm pretty sure that's how Capullo does his art, but just to see like hand drawn art nowadays is just phenomenal. Which of these do I pick? Fucking, I'm doing both. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago about Animosity, which is by Marguerite Bennett, who was a student of Scott Snyder's a couple of years ago, but she's now broken out and done a whole stuff. Pretty much, Animosity is what happens when animals gain human-level consciousness.
Ooh.
And, like, pretty sure they don't want to be eaten, and pretty sure they don't want to be, like, slaves, kind of. And what happens to the abused, like, what do the abused pets do, and what do the well-cared-for pets do, and can you really take the animal out of the animal? And how animal are humans? And then that's what leads to the last 2 issues, where this evil bitch of a woman is forcefully impregnating underage girls.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's artificial, there's no... But still, it's like...
Yeah, it's just like...
Bitch, you gotta die. And about... And I mean, it's not graphic, it's just you... I think that's the thing, like, you learn when you read comics that, like... A lot of people say, like, show, don't tell, but there's a lot of power in telling.
Mm-hmm.
If you can describe stuff with words, because like comics is both words and art.
Yeah.
So you can either tell with your art or you can tell with your words, and telling with your words can be a lot more moving in a way where, like, as in, like, stationary picture with like flowing words that can build a picture, and you can have like a 1-page spread of just like, I don't know, like 8 panels, and it's like a flashback, like you have different eras of flashbacks and like current, and you can do beautiful stuff like what's that book I'm thinking of at the moment? Batman Long Halloween. There's a double-page spread that's Bruce with Alfred after his parents died, and then Dick with Alfred after his parents have died and Bruce has adopted him, and they're both saying the same thing about, like, now I'm all alone, no one cares for me, no one really, like, I don't matter anymore. And it contrasts between Bruce in black and white and like sepia tones, giving that feeling of the past, and then Dick in full... Well, it's not full colour, because that comic's not... It's like... The whole book's in like very muted greys and dark blues and muted yellows, and it's a very, very pretty book. The whole... Who did that? Jeff Loeb and... Loeb and someone else. I feel bad for forgetting their name, because everything they do is great. Another thing they did was Superman for All Seasons, which is a great introductory book for Superman. Again, beautiful. I think it's watercolors. But yeah. And then seeing we get so gay on this podcast, the last recommendation will be Bingo Love, which is an indie comic. So that's the thing. I'm trying to get some indie comics in there because indie comics don't get enough love. Pretty much it's about two women who meet at a bingo hall in the 60s. And being the 60s and being women of colour, they can't quite be together because a lot of homophobia and a lot of black culture being very homophobic. So they leave, they get married, they have kids, and then in their later lives, around the age of like 50, 60, they meet again. And it just, the rest of the book just goes into what happens from there. What happens when the love of your life, who you were never able to be with, you meet again. And it's only like 100 pages, but oh my god, it's so sweet, and probably one of the only comics that made me cry this year. And like made me cry multiple times. Like in a good way. They just re-released it, so now I have 2 copies of it.
Oh, okay.
Because the first issue was the first release was just the main story, and then this they did. It was an indie. It was a Kickstarter book.
Oh, okay.
So like the stretch goals were like different stories written by different artists and writers. So actually, one of them's done by Marguerite Bennett, who Animosity, but the side stories are okay. I didn't like them as much because there was one there there was one of the stories that just seemed like they were having a gay character for the sake of having a gay character, and it didn't make sense. I mean, it did make sense, but it was kind of... Turns out like one of the women's husbands had a gay affair in Vietnam in the 70s. And it was... also, he's a cunt. Because he... Like, there's a difference... Like, the women don't cheat. That's the whole thing. But the husbands are fucking cheating, and I can't deal with that bullshit. But I also understand the era. But, yeah, so there's a lot of stuff there. Batman, Animosity, Bingo Love, Flash. And if you do want to do...
That's more than 2.
Yes, I know it's more than 2. But if you do want to do the 200, 300 issues of Green Lantern, I highly recommend it. Jeff Johns is a brilliant writer. And you eventually do get to my favourite character of Jessica, but I understand it's 300 issues of comic books.
God. That is quite a lot.
Also, that just kind of goes into... You can guess how many comics I have if I'm like, this one book is 300 issues worth of stuff. And, I mean, even in the Batman stuff I described, there's probably about that much as well.
Oh,
but,
wow.
Oh, actually, no, because it's only main Batman, so probably... maybe like 152, but that's where like each of those artists, each of those writers I said is a different jumping on point.
Oh, okay.
So none of them flow into they all flow into each other. So if you read one, it will kind of help you. Well, actually, no, it won't help you understand Scott Snyder's run. It will help you understand Black Mirror. But New 52 was a brand new reboot. All the characters had brand new origins, so that's why, like. I've recommended Batman New 52, Green Lantern New 52, and like Green Lantern New 52 wasn't a reboot, so if you're going to do that, start with the original Green Lantern Rebirth in 2005. But yeah, New 52 is just overall a good jumping on point, unless it's unless it's the books that had a bad New 52 run. It's hard.
I gather that
with main characters. Like, with your main, like, DC Marvel characters, just, like, pick up part 1 of a new arc. So that's the thing not a lot of people understand with comics, in that comics are published in, like, 6-issue runs. 6 issue arcs. So you can pick up like issue 34, but it's part one of the latest arc. So it's going to be a new story. It's not. It might have a bit of ties to the old one, but I mean, it's the same as like, I don't know, like someone watching like Home and Away or Neighbours. You haven't seen all 30 years of the show. You just kind of like guess what's going on previously, and you can kind of like, there might be like a previously on, and like you can pick it up from there.
Yeah. that was. There's plenty of material if any of our listeners are interested in.
Also, just like send me, like just like tweet at me, being like, "Yo, this is what I like. Recommend me something."
Yeah, that is a great way to sort of like, and if there's other stuff that you have and you want to recommend, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it totally works. I guess the next question that we'll go on to is what drives you? I guess this is sort of like a motivation question.
Ooh, okay. What drives me?
Yeah.
I think what drives me is self-betterment. Like everything not everything I do, but most things I do are in the aim to be better. So whether it's like going out and seeking medical help for mental health care, or for a throat infection that you've had for 3 weeks, just like seeking help when you can seek help, and having like a supportive friend group around you. Like I said previously, like you've been a big like not a big support network, but it's always been handy just to like have that friend in your pocket. And probably one of my closest friends at the moment, like her and I talk like not every day, but like at least like once a week, if not like every second day or something, just being like, how are you? Have you been like, have you sorted out your psych stuff yet, or have you applied for this TAFE course, or just having people around you to drive you, so not having to always drive yourself. If that makes sense. But yeah, for sure, like I feel like ever since I left high school, like my anxiety's got worse, and if I hadn't seeked help for that, to be honest, I probably wouldn't even be here. But it's just kind of having a goal as well. Like I think like the reason I sought help wasn't for me. It was for my parents. It was for my cousins. It was for my team at the time. For my best friends. For like just always having someone. Like, I did say always having someone you can rely on, but just knowing you're not alone is really what I'm trying to say there. And especially, like, going off that, another thing that drives me is family. Like, as I grow up and my family grow up around me, you kind of just, like, I kind of just value them a lot more now. And, I mean, since Dad moved south, it made it a lot easier to visit, in that, like, you don't have to stay, like, I don't have to stay with my semi-annoying grandparents. I just stay at Dad's, and, I don't get lectured about the immigrants or whatever.
No.
But, like, it's good to see my cousins. Like, my cousins are, like, I think my oldest cousin's, like, 8. So they're, like, that kid age. They like having someone who they can play with. Because, like, everyone else is, like, in their 40s and can't bend over and that type of stuff. So just running around with them kind of is something like, as much as I hate, I don't hate them, but as much as I find them annoying at times,
Mm-hmm.
it's good to just kind of reminisce about being a kid again.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is a good way to sort of like, you know, have that goal of like making sure that you're there for, you know, for other people. And yeah, it's so interesting. Probably in the last episode of this little like mini series, I'll probably reflect on a lot of the responses each one of us has said for some of these questions, because some of these questions are going to be the same for everyone. So it's going to be really interesting to sort of figure out who else says like similar sort of stuff. But yeah,
But also how we differ.
Yeah. It is very interesting.
Like,
I can't say what other people have said, but yeah, it is.
Like, to be honest, that's the, like, what drives you is kind of the question I'd love to ask my brother. And that, like, my brother and I are very, like, we're very much similar, but we're also very much different. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe it would help me understand him a bit more and understand why he isn't as family oriented, or why. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the next one. Are there any goals that you want to set for 2019?
Not really, to be honest. Like, I'm not a very, like, active goal person. In that I always see, like, if you just set big goals, you're just setting big failures at the same time. And also, like, you might then even be tempted to make, like, impossible goals, or goals that you can't control. And then you just set yourself up for failure again, set yourself up for disappointment. I mean, like, if I did have to set up, like, gun to my head, I had to set up goals for 2019, it would be stuff like successfully doing placement for my current course, or, you know, maybe just staying more calm and chill and kind of like more inward reflection, kind of, but in a healthy way. And maybe also just like being more open to others about who you are and how you feel and that type of stuff. Like, like, just understanding. No, I'm lost there. Sorry. No, just kind of letting people know how you are and where you're at, not like physically, but as in mentally. Yeah. I mean, I'm very much one for that poisonous staying up, thinking about everything that could go wrong or is going wrong, and I mean that's been fucking me up lately. But yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not very an active goal person. I just kind of like to set, because I also know, like, even if I do set a small goal, like, I won't hit it, so there's no point in setting the big goals, and kind of understanding that life can get in the way. So there's, like, yeah, to me, there's no, instead of there being, like, I'll talk about this in American football, which no one else will understand, but I will. In that it's all well and good to make that glory run to the end zone to get that touchdown, but at the same time, you can just take it 10 yards at a time, getting that first down, that other first down, the next first down, and just slowly making your way to the goal, and you still get the exact same amount of points. You've also run down the clock a bit, so the opposition might not be able to score on you in return, but at the end of the day, both have a touchdown, unless you're a shit football player. So it's your choice. Either you can make the glory run and maybe spectacularly foul, or maybe you can just take it 10 yards at a time.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess there's one last question that is like on this list, and I guess it's an opportunity to sort of extend it to, I guess, for people who might, need to hear it. It'll be a good opportunity for them to hear it. So if there is something you would want to say to your younger self, what would it be?
Now, just as I'm not much of a person to look forwards, I'm also honestly, I'm not too much of a person to look back. Like, hindsight is 20/20 and you can't change it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think past me, it could have maybe helped to just be like, just calm your farm a bit, mate. Just take it a day at a time. Don't worry about the end goals. Just, like, I mean, I always found it weird that I never was that stressed about HSC. And I kind of liked that. And like, I know a lot of people, like, they'll go back and say, like, there's things that they would have changed in high school, but really, like, I still think of high school as, like, some of the best days in that I was having fun and, I was just doing what I wanted to do very carefree. And when, at the time, I had a job, which was nice. But, yeah, just actually thinking about it, one of the things I would say is stop listening to other people so much. Just kind of be your own person. Like, again, hindsight 20/20, and you can't really change what happened. But in year 10, I was going to do, it's called a TVET course. It's pretty much a TAFE course that you do in high school. And it was pretty much the course I ended up doing last year. And I got talked out of it. People being like, oh no, it's just focus on getting into uni. Don't worry about, like, you're never going to use it. But turns out, uni wasn't for me, and I kind of wanted to use that diploma. So maybe just stop listening to other people and don't get talked out of doing that TVET course, because it may, again, I don't like to look back, because what the fuck's the point? You can't do anything. But it'd be interesting to see what happened if I did just do this one course.
And where you would be now, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of, I guess, like, in this sort of, over the year that I've sort of gotten to know you, it's been interesting to see how you, and particularly, like, how sort of more present, focused you are.
Okay.
Like, I guess, like, it's sort of like the, not far future or far past, but, it's like this little, yeah, you seem to have this like, and again, everyone is different, and sort of seeing your journey, over the past year, and where you've sort of ended up, the journey that you've been on. It's been interesting to have like been there, not in a physical sense, but just like, and I don't want to say observing, because observing is too cold a term, but yeah, sort of being there with you
as a bystander.
Yeah, as a bystander, and seeing how you've progressed, and it's been interesting. But I do like that sort of like near future focus
that's very much a symptom of my anxiety.
In
that I'm like, just don't think about the future, and if you don't think about it, it can't stress you out. Yeah. At the same time, like, that can be good, because you're not... I mean, it also means that stuff can creep up on you and it gets a whole heap worse.
Yes. Yeah.
But it means you're not kind of worrying about the future too much.
Yeah.
Like, you're not really worrying about, what am I going to do in 12 months? And you're not...
Yeah.
Like, you can't... Yeah, if you're thinking about if you're too worried about what's going to happen in the next week, you can't really worry about what's going to happen in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Which means you can set yourself up for failure, but you can also set yourself up for short-term success.
Yeah. And I guess it's about those like steps towards getting that goal, which is just as good as, the big success at the end. But yeah. It's been really interesting to sort of like, from where we sort of started talking to each other to where we are now. Yeah, I don't know how I would phrase it, but it's been as interesting for me, because I get,
I mean, I bet it's also good to not, like, I mean, you're still the oldest, but there's not as much of an age gap anymore.
That is, yeah, well, the age gap between me and Olivia wasn't that bad either. Although, it's like 2 years, like the age gap between you and me is like 2 years now, right? 2-ish?
Yeah, it's like 2.5, I think.
Oh, less than 2.5, I think. Yeah, but it's about 2 years. So it's, in the same sort of generation almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think I fit in the dead center there between you and Olivia.
Yeah, that might be right. Maybe, I can't remember.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
the fucking kiddies talk about like bullshit, like late 90s, or like people, they're being like, I have no memories of the 90s. I'm like, fuck, you're young.
I mean, obviously. But yeah, I guess the other thing with you is that I get to talk about science a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Now, like in this past season that, we finished, there's been a lot more like, more weirder science stuff that I can bring up, because there is another STEM person that I can talk to without being the weird one. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what 2019 brings.
I don't even want to think about that.
Well, we're gonna sort of, timestamp this, recording. We're a month away from 2019. So, it's coming.
Yeah, but I've still got a lot that I have to do before then.
Yeah, me too. We'll see what happens. But honestly, like, it's been great to have you on the pod. So, like, you know, it all happened because, yeah, okay. This is the question. Why did you say yes?
Because I had nothing better to do. No, I mean, like, I had thought about, like, I think I started listening to podcasts in high school, so I've probably been listening to podcasts for 8-10 years now.
Okay.
So I always was kind of like in the fandom of podcasts, shall we say. And I always kind of like wanted a creative project, and you know, I'd gone between like doing YouTube stuff or doing or even doing a podcast or doing impro comedy, or there were so many creative outlets that I tried and just could never do by myself. And then having this one where it's a handful of cool people who bounce off each other and drive each other and just have fun, and it doesn't feel like work. Like, I know this isn't work. However, if people want to fucking pay us, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't feel like we're trying... I mean, at times, you know, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for content, but it doesn't feel like...
It's not a burden, as it were.
No. Plus, it's the type of thing where, like with a lot of projects, you need to keep them going continually.
Yeah.
So it's good here where I can just be like, I'm out for 2 weeks, or you being like, I'm out for a month, or Olivia being like, I got exams and shit to do, or Anastasia just being like, I'm out for 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no, I guess, real pressure on anyone to sort of be on, like, on a super regular basis. Okay, the exception is me, because I'm weird. And I'll probably explain this on my own episode, but yeah. I'm probably the only constant throughout the pod, as it were. Even like for the 4-month stint that the 4-week stint I was away. But yeah.
Were you even editing those?
I believe I was.
Yeah, I've got a feeling you were.
The power of Google Drive and yeah.
I mean, no, like, we did good during that era. I mean, like, during that time. I mean, the first one
period of time.
Like, the first one was Ben and Me, which I will still believe is the Hell Train.
Hell Train Part 2, really. After Mate's Great.
Oh, I mean, just the pairing of Ben and I is just a disaster.
In and of itself, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if one Benet is bad,
okay.
two rambly people is just as bad.
Yeah, fair enough.
I suppose at least I can kind of like rein the boy in.
Kind of. We try.
But I also give him a little bit too much leash.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, it's like giving a kid a box of matches. You really shouldn't, and you should probably like control him. But at the same time, it's fun to watch him burn things. It's fun to watch that flicker in their eye.
That's true. But yeah. Before we wrap and do socials, is there anything from today that you you wanna, I guess, did you realize, or is there anything that came up from today that you found interesting?
Nothing like jumps out. A lot of just vocalizing thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've tried to before, and it's again, like, I'm one of those people who will, like, drop habits way too quickly. But it's good to just, and, like, I already knew this, but it's good to, like, verbalize thoughts, or write them down, or not so much, like, more just, letting, like, expelling them.
Mm-hmm.
So, to use a word that became a meme for me in high school, it's cathartic.
Ah. Interesting.
I mean, I think that's also another reason why I said yes to this so fast, and then I saw it as a form of catharsis.
Just get it all out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I'm sure, like, a lot of us use this as some form of catharsis.
I mean, I know a lot of us use each other as a form of catharsis. And I mean, I think all friendships should have that element of just like, yo, shut the fuck up, it's catharsis time.
Yeah. And it's a sign of, you know, at least
trust,
yeah. But
at the same time, like we said earlier, like, you can't push that trust.
Yeah.
You got to set up boundaries.
Yeah. Okay. That was really interesting to sort of hear. And I'm sure, like, for those of you who are listening to this, I'm sure that you're able to sort of get a sense of, a little bit more, sense of, you know, who Nick is and his interests and, why he uses this podcast as a method of, catharsis. So, I'll get Nick to tell you guys where you can find him if you want to find him.
If people want to find me, and perhaps even learn the story of the meme of catharsis, you can hit me up on Twitter. I will, anyone. I mean, don't fucking, like, stalk me on Twitter or whatever. Like, don't, like, randomly DM me. But, you know, if you want to, like, I'll see it. I'll see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my Twitter and my Instagram. Again, Instagram is mostly cats. Well, mostly one cat. It's mostly just the cat I have at the moment. It's sometimes my dad's cat, but it's usually my cat. Both are at Nick Landkroon, NickLandkrOon. And yeah, that's where I'll be at.
Okay, sweet. And if you want to find me, as always, I'm on a lot of platforms, so go and find me at Abang Pinoy, ABANGPINOY. If you want to find out what the other socials for the other great mates are, you're just going to have to listen to the rest of this mini-series or go to one of our old episodes. You'll find them there. For the podcast, you can go listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, literally anywhere and everywhere you can sub to a podcast. We'll probably be there. If you're on iTunes, feel free to leave us 5 stars and a review. We would really love to get feedback. 'Cause, you know, who doesn't want feedback? Especially for podcasts and for us that so desperately need validation.
Also, we want to get better.
Yeah, we do actually want to get better. So, you know, don't leave us hanging. Do us a solid and leave a review on our iTunes. Share us to your friends. our socials. We can be found on Twitter and Instagram. Great Mates Podcast, GR8 M8S Podcast. That's all one word. And that's going to be it for today's Q&A one-on-one mini-series episode with Nick. Thank you, Nick, for taking the time to do this. And
thanks for thinking of this format.
And we'll see you guys on another episode in this mini-series or on summer. And hopefully, fingers crossed, season 3 will be coming out very soon. That's gonna be it. Bye!
See you, mates.